Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at a play known as The Duke of Florence. It's not its title, it's just a page of a manuscript of a play. It has various different attributions of what to call it for reference purposes. In Wiggins, it's down as Tragedy of Prince Alexander and Lorenzo. Other people have called it Duke of Florence, but there's another play called The Duke of Florence, so that's quite annoying. But it's got a duke, and he's a Duke of Florence, so it's not inaccurate in that sense. And so we are going to look at this page. There are various little bits and pieces in it that either have been crossed through, so you get a little sense of what the author is trying to do. And in processing a manuscript play like this, where there isn't really much context, there will be some potential changes that might need to be made or have been made to try and make it readable. So it may not bounce perfectly. To help make it bounce along, we have in the room, we have Alan, we have Lynn, and we have Eric reading, and we have Kyle helping me with the stage directions. So it's not a desperately long fragment. I don't know if I'm going to pause you midway, but we'll start the text off. It starts mid-flow because it's just a page randomly. The prince is on stage. Alphonso is on stage and Lorenzo is on stage. They're all on stage, and the prince is somewhere midway through spouting some words.
And wrong the judgment of the highest policy the world adores. Go, my Alphonso, go. Leave us alone. I and my dear cousin in private must discourse. Alphonso, go, and all withdraw.
As your highness wills, so must be our motion.
Why, if death were here and set wide ope his jaws, I would not shun the chamber for the grisly monster's company. Not any beaten soldier with less fear dares see the cannon fired than with fixed eyes mark his career in the resounding air and see and hear his thundering whistle. Then I dare encounter danger, though that danger had for his attendant death.
By heaven, my lord, not all the wit I am commander of can make me a wide Oedipus and unvolve the mystery of your sphinx. I came to be the happy messenger of your approaching happiness.
Good in faith. And can there be a happy state before man meets with his lost faith?
What? Are you lucid Epictetus? Or have you read Boetius de Consoloni? Or else Cato's sentences? Well, it is a commendable thing in a prince. I hope you will in time write books, and the whole world may laugh at you. If you grow bookish, we must all turn scholars, and every one buy his horn book. Marry, those who are wedded may obtain such volumes by deed of gift, without troubling the stationer. When Dionysus studied geometry, there was not a courtier that walked with his Jacob's staff.
Can horrid treason, which for entrails hath the bowels of a serpent, and converts into burnt color whatsoe'er he eats, oppressed ever with suspecting thoughts, set such a face of harmless mirth on it? Surely Castruccio, banished from his home, not by these false fears, would make me leave a part in his prescription. Here, Lorenzo, read, and then have a heart to do the mentioned deed. But give me it again. It is not fit that who are vigilant for our safety should put in jeopardy their own.
Here's a subscription.
Now take and read.
What's this? Some bill exhibited by my tailor against me for not discharging his bill? Why, I hope favourites may run in debt and not be forced to pay them, but be borne out in greater matters than petty trifles. Or is it a complaint of some of my taverners for his reckonings? Slid if it be, I'll clap-a-claw the villain. I'll brain him with his own pottle pots. Besides withdrawing of my roaring whoppers from him, his house shall stand more empty than ever it did in the time of a visitation. My anger shall be more terrible than the Red Cross. Or it may be 'tis some oppressed damsel possession, who hath thought it a height of honour to be all one with your bravado, condescending to our ambition, and now feeling sick of that mother, would have me compelled by the title of a father to legitimate the unlawfully begotten progeny. Why, if these things should go by compulsion, I should have as many wives as Solomon. No, we'll have it enacted that it shall be comfort enough and honour enough for any lady to be the mistress of the prince's favourite, and that matrimony is a felicity beyond the expecting of frail ladies in this vale of misery. But in the name of goodness, let me read.
He reads, the prince attentively marking him.
My honoured lord, I wish you what your nearest friends would take from you, safety. Lorenzo Medicis hath ofttimes avowed your death and alteration of the government. I could wish this latter, but not by the relation of Cassius' sacrifice. Whoever writ this was a Spartan on my life. He writes so laconically briefly and to the purpose, with an abominable deal of love to the generation of Hercules. I'll get it without book.
Read again.
Reason is like the cockatrice. Once seen is straight falls sick, and after a few pangs gives up the ghost. But here's no languishing, no change of hue, but no guilty fear drives back the blood into the heart and pales the face. He is all innocent, and that clear virtue makes him undaunted.
Prince Alexander, whoe'er writ this caveat, had infallible intelligence.
Why is it true?
That's the first verity. But I am a better physician than Achilles, he, having wounded, cured. But I, before the blow can be given, can help. My lord, you shall prevent.
Prevent what and how?
Treason. The means, anticipation. Here, take this blade and run quite through a traitor. And if you want a heart or hand to do it, speak to Lorenzo, and Lorenzo shall perform this justice.
Why art thou faulty then? I know thou art not, by the love thou owest me. Tell me, is there the least ground of this letter? Why should that breast harbor thy first thought of danger towards Alexander? Alexander would, with his own hands, save thee a killing labor. I had lived 1,000 years too long. I'm assuming there's something here. It's a gap. Nearest friends grow weary of my being. Taken, doubtful. I advise thee.
Well, treason is up, gin devil, and your honour, a learned. It shall come up and appear in its likeness. First he must make his way. First tell me, prince, what services of state have I not done? How often discovered plots of the banished party, who would innovate a form of government, who did prevent the last surprise so probable by the conspiracy of Salviato, that man of danger, killed for his cardinal's cap. The states of Italy, estate.
The world says so.
Now I come to prove myself treacherous. There are 1,000 ways of doing good services in a commonwealth, but are not all those who do these services your statesmen, great intelligencers? And without this intelligence, can there be anything done in this commonwealth? Why, it is the spectacles wise men put on to read others' lives, and how they should direct their own acts. Some, with infinite sums, corrupt those who are able to inform them. Gonzales, the grand captain, put in Ferdinand's reckoning 1,000,000 of crowns given to spies. Others, with easier way and sweeter, know their enemies' secrets, namely by lying with their wives or mistresses. This was Sejanus' trick with Livia, the wife of Drusus, and in our latter days it hath been much more put in practice. But for me to do Alexander's service, to deliver Ilium to the Argives, I'll have it put on the person of Sinon, spoke against Agamemnon, railed against the Greeks, threatened my prince. favoured the exiles, and all for safety of my prince, and to discover the plots of the exiles.
And Fragment ends. Okay, lots of little gaps here and there, the odd words, beginnings of lines. This is what happens with manuscripts, unfortunately, or in fact any text. We had a few cross-through lines there. The playwright thought, know you fester in your bosom a serpent, and then thought, nah. It's pity it's quite a good line. In this prescription here, Lorenzo, read the causes of Alexander's fears. Cause of Alexander's fears went. He decided he didn't need to talk about. The prince didn't need to talk about himself in the third person. So yeah, it's actually quite an interesting scene. This the prince has got this letter which implicates Lorenzo in a plot to murder him, and Lorenzo reads it, and he sort of goes, he sort of prevaricates before he actually gets around to reading it, quite a long time, and then says, "Is it true?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's all true. Yeah, but it was I'm a double agent. I'm not really trying to kill you. It was all, I'm trying to get in with the bad people." And now we have to sort of make a decision based on this fragment. Is he lying? Is he really a double agent, or is he not on the prince's side? Thoughts in the room about this or any other thing that came out of this little fragment?
Yes, how tantalizing. Like, ooh, I want to know what this play is about, and we'll never know. Lorenzo's already, in just this one page, such an interesting character. The prince has obviously got some very serious business. Like, here, read this. Oh, what is this? A tavern reckoning? Oh, a bill from my tailor. Like, hey, I'm a gentleman. I should be able to be in debt. He's just like completely joking, like not taking it seriously. And even after he reads it, I was like, oh yeah, his sprezzatura is certainly impressive. What a fun character.
Yeah, it's a really nice little back and forth, and I think it does have a source in a play, so we may be able to find a play that is quite similar to this, or have similar elements to this, that we might be able to we may get more of this plot in another text, but that's for a future session. I won't spoil by saying what it is at this time, but within its own logic, it's a really. I'd quite like to just hand this to some writers and say, "Hi, write the rest of this play."
Try to play around this, yeah.
Which is what I always like to do with fragments. I think that's what they're useful for. Sometimes you can patch a few together and use them to sort of build a greater frame. But here, I think it's just this is a really nice setup for a play, actually, even though it's probably only part of a much more complicated plot strand, and there's probably a B plot and other plots as well. Alan, and then Eric.
Yeah, I mean, it feels to me as if it could be maybe a university piece, because it's very definitely showy-offy with the classical references, including my bête noire of anything to do with the Trojan Wars, but also Roman classical history in there as well. So it just had a feel of being showing off. Oh yeah, well, I've read all of these things.
Yeah, that's not how it impressed itself on me, but I do see your point. It does actually have quite a lot of that stuff in there, doesn't it? Does it have more to the pound than other plays, or is it just what Lorenzo is mostly doing? Is it because it's mostly coming from Lorenzo, so it might just be a character note rather than that's what the play overall was for? But
he also has most of the words in the piece.
Yes. Eric.
I when we started reading this, I was like, is this like a sort of missing part of, like, I don't know, either like the Duchess of Malfi or like the Revenger's Tragedy? But then obviously as we went on reading it, obviously because it has a title as well, it just feels like it belongs to another play that we've read.
It spoke to me of revenge tragedy. It had to say, I have to say that sort of the chat between the prince and a duke, that had a certain feel to it. Sorry, Eric.
Yeah, basically that's it. I mean, I sort of, especially the sort of prince's mini sort of aside about treason, and then sort of yeah. I just like the expressions used, the hard treason which entrails half the balls of a serpent, and it's like that's actually quite a nice way of expressing it.
Mm. And the stage direction tears the subscription. I mean, it's basically tears off who wrote the letter. That's the important thing of just going. Oh, you can read it almost, without knowing necessarily where it's going and how it's going to bounce along. Any other thoughts before I close this quick look at this little fragment? No. Okay. Well, that's it for Lorenzo and all the other people. I'm sure we'll return to this. It will inevitably end up on the podcast. In fact, you might be listening to this on the podcast, depending on whether it just stays on YouTube. But I might use some of this on the pod in the future as well, because we do a lot of fragments on the podcast, much less so than we do on the YouTubes. So all that remains to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. Treason is like the cockatrice.